Section 2.2 is adding and subtracting rational numbers. So we're going to use the number line first of all to add rational numbers. And we do that by drawing a number line. Let's see. Put 0 here, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. That ought to be enough. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10. Whoops, this is not a very even number line, but you get the idea. So number line using to add and subtract. So if we're adding, we are moving to the right. That's positive. If we are subtracting, we're moving to the left. So let's start with addition. Let's do a simple 3 plus 7. So I start at positive 3 on the number line, and add means go to the right. So if I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I end up at 10. So 3 plus 7 is 10. Pretty simple. If I want to add 3 plus a -7, again, I start at 3 plus a negative. A negative means I'm going to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I end up at -4. So moving right or left on the number line, the same thing with subtraction. If I do 2 minus 1, starting at 2, let me try to erase some of this other stuff. Okay, starting at 2, minus means go to the left, -1 is 1. Or, let's see, -3 minus 2. So starting at -3, whoops, I'm losing my number line. Starting at -3, and then subtracting 2 to the left 2 more, I end up at -5. So moving back and forth on the number line is one way to add and subtract rational numbers. Now let's look at some rules. The rule says to add rational numbers with the same sign, add their absolute values. Remember absolute value, we've already talked about this. The sum has the same sign as the addends, the things that we're adding. So same sign, 3 plus 7. What we're thinking is the absolute values of these are themselves because they're both positive. So when they're both positive, it's pretty simple. If they're both negative, what we want to do is we want to think about adding their absolute values. And their absolute values are 3 plus 7, and we get 10. And then use the same sign as what we started with. We started with 2 negatives, so we keep it a negative. Think of it again on our number line. If I start at -3, and then I go to the left 7 more, I'm going to have a bigger negative. Okay? To add rational numbers with different signs, think about subtracting the smaller absolute value from the greater absolute value. The sum has the same sign as the number with the greater absolute value. So adding with different signs. So 3 plus a -7. We are going to think, taking the absolute values, subtracting the lesser absolute value, which in this case is 3, from the absolute value of 7. So the difference of their absolute values is 4, and then we're going to use the sign of the greater of the two. So the answer would be negative. The other way around, again, I'm going to think about subtracting their absolute values. Again, I get the same answer, 4, but this time, since the larger absolute value has a positive, the answer will also be positive. We don't have to write out the absolute value step, but that's what we're thinking about doing. When we're adding opposite signs, we're going to actually use the difference. Let's think about that on our number line. So if I start at positive 3, that's gone to the right, and then I go to the left 7, okay, go to the left 7 units, I am going to end up at negative 4. Same thing here, because I'm going opposite directions. I start by going to the left 3 to find negative 3, and then I go to the right 7. I'm going to end up with the difference of the two. Okay. So the additive inverse property says that the sum of a number and its additive inverse is 0. In algebra, we say a plus its opposite, additive inverse is the opposite, is 0. So for example, 4 plus a negative 4 is 0. Negative 7 plus the opposite of negative 7 is also 0. Okay. All right, subtraction of rational numbers. To subtract a rational number, simply add its additive inverse. So when we have a subtraction problem, we're going to change it to addition of the opposite. For any numbers a and b, a minus b is the same as a plus the opposite of b. So let's try a few of these. 3 minus 6 is the same as 3 plus the opposite of 6 is negative 6. Now we're adding opposite signs. Take the difference and use the sign of the larger absolute value. Negative 4 minus 7. Subtracting a rational number, I'm going to add, the first number doesn't change, I'm going to add the inverse. Now I'm adding two negatives. I get a larger negative, negative 11. Now I know this is pretty simple stuff and that we've done it lots of times, but I also know that it's really easy to make careless mistakes here. So we're going to really work on this a little bit. So let's do a few of these together. I'm going to give you 3 problems, and I want you to work on these and have them ready for class time. So I'm going to mix it up a little bit here for you and see how you do. Alright, there's 3 of them. They're a little bit tougher than what we've done in the video, but give them a shot and we'll see you in class.